Thank you, Marie. And thanks, first and foremost, to Felix and the students for, the great opportunity to be here with all these talented and devoted and really amazing people. I think if there's one thing we've learned this morning for anybody who wasn't here, is that we must share, collaborate, and document more. We need to find better ways to do this, better ways to communicate, and this is the most crucial thing now. And we do also need to understand that each and every one of us, we all have the same mission in the order of, saving the world from the planet, from plastic pollution and so on and so forth, but each and every member and workspace has their own approach and their own thing to give back to the community, so that's another mission we have. We need to look at ourselves as a community and start thinking harder about how we communicate back. If we're always talking about, top-bottom processes, we need to start pushing upwards back to the community. And for those of us who are here for like 2 years or more, even 1 year in the process of making, know that you are now a pro. So be the director and just go on. I'm going to speak about essential stepping stones, or about the Make in Education approach regarding precious plastic. And that means I'm looking at it as a project-based learning framework. For those of you who aren't, is there anybody who's not familiar with the term project-based learning? Great, so we'll move on from here. If there's anything that's unclear or uncertain, please stop me in the middle. That's the most important thing. Or if I'm speaking too fast. So I'm originally from Haifa. That's in Israel. I hope nobody's upset about that. Haifa is a green, multicultural city, mountain and sea meeting together, and there's a lot of forests, and there's also lots of forest fires. And 2010, there was a big forest fire. I had to evacuate my home. It didn't reach my home at the end, but I did help my friends to turn off fires in their homes and outside of their homes. It was a big thing. It happened again in 2018. It happens once every 2 years, and it's something we deal with. And there is a story about the hummingbird, which some of you might know. I'm going to tell it shortly. All the animals in the forest started running away from the fire, and the hummingbird went down to the sea, took a droplet of water, and went back to the mountain, dropped it there. The hippo asked her, "Why are you doing this?" I'm not sure if there's a hippo in the forest, but he was asking that, and the hummingbird said, "Well, I'm doing the best I can." And the hippo said, "Well, good luck with that. You're not going to do anything. There's nothing going to change." But the monkey heard it, and the monkey ran all the way down and grabbed some water in his mouth and threw it, and another animal came by, and then the hippo came by, and at the end, all the animals broke down the fire? Is that what? Put out the fire. So I really encourage you to do the best you can, and most importantly, don't let anybody ever discourage you, because you can only do the best you can. As a result of the fires, I created this personal extinguisher stand, which is kind of a monument, which should remind everybody to put an extinguisher in their home and be responsible that the fire won't reach his home or hers home. It's kind of talking about self-responsibility, and I'm putting the re in responsibility because we're talking about many other re's. My final project in Bachelor of Design was speaking about reclamation of school spaces. And I've worked in an amazing school in Jerusalem. We've done many workshops until we reached this final conclusion of we need a design kit for shared spaces in elementary schools. And some of the parts in this kit are supposedly made by extrusion with plastic, and this is how I discovered the world of plastic extrusion. Later on, I watched the version 2 videos of Dave Hankins and started Precious Plastic Jerusalem. Then 1 year afterwards, the machines moved to Tel Aviv and became Precious Plastic Tel Aviv. Precious Plastic Tel Aviv, we've been doing some workshops with making the spit tops and later on clocks. We actually created the first mold of acrylic, just like Precious Plastic Shanghai, and we thanked them, by the way, of what I said before, for great work of documentation and sharing with the community. But the thing is, we worked with PLA, so PLA melted our molds, and right after that, we started working with aluminum molds. We laser cutted them, and now, as you can see, and to be continued, we are trying and testing, working with laser cut molds. Hardcore, I suggest everybody try and find your expert in CNC milling. The Precious Plastic machines went through a couple of phases of redesigning and remaking, and they are currently sitting in the Shin Sheva makerspace, which is a place for make-in education, actually, which is very different from the public school system. So, in recycling, you'd usually say it starts with reuse, reduce, recycle. We all know that, and that's very important, but we must think educationally. We should rethink and respect before we reuse, reduce, recycle, because otherwise those words mean nothing. If we start rethinking and respecting the materials we use and the products we use, we can do great change. And this is, by the way, from the, of course, documenting and sharing by Precious Plastic, I discovered the Explora exhibition in Rome. The Rome Children's Museum did it in summer 2017, and I think they've got a thing that nobody else in the Precious Plastic understood that good, is catch them young. I mean, as younger as you can, because then they would rethink and respect it much more. And they would tell their parents, and so on and so forth. We know how much children have impact. And do remember, if you want to think for the next year or so, you should buy a field and start growing. If you want to think for the next 5 years or so, plant a tree. If you want to think for the 100 years or so, start with education. So this is where Precious Plastic, I think, has the most impact. It is a design project, but in my point of view, we should start respecting its place as an educational project. About 30% of the people who contacted me were educators, and these were the best interactions I've had. This is my PLSTLV, which is the name of the Facebook page, inbox stats. A few people from the global community, especially people from Cyprus and Greece close by, some technical experts who wanted to know if they can help, mostly didn't have time afterwards, designers and especially product design students who wanted to check out and see what's there, got disappointed quite quickly, marine activists really, really want to know more about what's going on, and some random want to get started thing, which I might say most of them are 3D printers who would like to recycle their own 3D printed material, and were very sad to discover that I couldn't make films. For teachers and educators, Precious Plastic is an out-of-the-classroom PBL platform for teaching sustainability, entrepreneurship, technology, community, and much more. But those are the most important things that they have told me that they want to be doing. We want sustainability in our school. I want to teach entrepreneurship and capability. I need to teach my children technology because I need to prepare them for this world, and we must make a stronger community, and this project seems like a big enough project to create community. These were stuff I usually hear. We want a waste-free school. This is something I hear a lot, and well, now I have pictures to show them of what you really need to create a waste-free school, thanks to NYU. Autonomous and inclusive project. Autonomous meaning the children and the teacher can create it themselves, and inclusive meaning children are responsible for the outcomes. So they want kids to reclaim technology, and also kids to reclaim classrooms and create stuff for their own. I think it's an important thing to note, the inclusive part. Precious plastic should be as inclusive as it can be, from my point of view. So studying on children is a great way to make sure it happens. Educators should understand that they should come as they are. I'm an industrial designer. There are academics here. There are engineers. There are many, many different kinds of people working in the precious plastic. We should make personas, UX speaking. We should know who these people are. Educators also should be able to create wow at all times, because other ways they lose focus. I mean, children should see outcomes at all times. It doesn't have to be like a giant wow in the sky, but it has to be something that excites a child, and educators are quite good at that. Educators should also be able to engage in the global precious plastic community. So we'll talk about this a little later. Educators should address their community, and it's not that trivial to say that you should talk to the children in your class, their parent, the guy outside of school, the guard in school. Everybody can help, and everybody might be very, very interested in that. Educators should manage school and school politics and standard, because me as a designer or an engineer doesn't understand anything about school politics, but if a teacher wants to get precious plastic in schools, or get the children outside of the classroom and into a precious plastic workshop, they need to understand school politics. They should also understand the complexities of working with plastics, the dangers, the way things work, and for that we should do the best we can to share this information with them and to make it as documented and as clear as possible. Why do we need educators? We need many more kinds of people. The map is a great tool, but I don't think it has that much information in it. And what?
You're working on it.
I know, and that's amazing. I'm so waiting for version 4. So why do we need educators? We need educators because they are not hardcore makers, and they are not mere enthusiasts, but they do know stuff that we don't know. They can try to build a machine if they're curious. They shouldn't be so hard on themselves if they can't find the time to do that. The best crowd for an inclusive platform is children, so we must contact educators of schools. Making future impact via education is so important. Access to resources. I know NYU has good resources. My precious plastic Tel Aviv was based on 3,000 shekels, which is approximately 3,000 dirhams, less than $1,000. And that was enough to create the first 3 machines. Then I burned an engine, so I need 1,000 more. And if I was in a school, it would have worked much easier for me. Children are great for testing and discovery because they are creative, and they don't have the bad conceptions that we as adults have, like, oh, I won't try that because I'm looking at what Marcella is doing here, and I was like, yeah, you really use an acrylic, but I can't recycle that. But no, she's being like totally all over the place and creating stuff that I would never dare to do, and she got this result, and I didn't. Content production. When educators do stuff, they tend to share and collaborate. So I'm not as good as that. I was just focusing, solving the problem, solving the problem, solving the problem. We should share more than we solve. How we adapt to educators. We first and foremost make machines that are child-friendly and fit institution standards. This is not the original declaration of precious plastic, but nowadays we need more machines that look like the machines in the Rome Children's School, Children's Museum. We need machines that children can use, machines that children would like to use, machines that won't make children have bad mistakes, not even, hazardous mistakes, but just, it won't make them frustrated. And some of the tools we use are quite frustrating. We need to work on that. We need to solve building, molding, and design issues, because we are the ones solving these kinds of problems, and they're not supposed to solve these problems. Who builds the machines? Who maintains the machines? This is a great question for putting a precious plastic in a school, because educators won't maintain machines. If you have a fab lab in the school, or a small kind of fab lab, then it's a good place for a precious plastic project. Who makes the mold is a great question of course, how complex is the mold and how exactly intricate is the mold. The mold is supposed to be very well designed in order to, get the plastic out of it. So somebody who makes the mold shouldn't be an industrial designer. He should be an engineer who knows how to make molds and has an access to CNC milling machine that can work with aluminum. You have many other ways of creating molds that's very creative, but if you want easy results and simple results and something that is inclusive, I believe that you do need some CNC molds. Otherwise, you can do stuff like that, but yeah, last couple of minutes, so I'm not going to explain forward about making simple and inclusive workshop templates for Huawei products. We've seen that with Marcella, and she's done a much better job than me with it. But there are some great examples for templates out there. We are designers, we should design these templates. We should support progressive disclosure. For those of you who don't know the term, this means everything should move for the user, or for the child, or for the person coming to the workshop and not knowing yet about precious plastic. Everything should move from simple to complex to avoid frustration. And we should start with what's already available in your community, not what could be available. If you have a paper shredder, use the paper shredder. If you have a blender laying around, try and work it out. You might ruin the machine, but, well, they will buy another paper shredder if you ruin it. It's time to team up. Can't repeat this more. Makers should work together. This is an essential thing in the Makers, I'm not sure if it's the Maker's Bible or the 10 Amendments of making. Makers should always work together. I have worked alone for 2 years. This was a mistake. It was wrong. Work together. So if we should share experiences, we all try to solve the same problem. If one fails, everybody learns. I'm going to say it once again. I have failed. I have worked alone. Collaborate. Document. Discuss. Share and guide with each other, and do it obsessively. I was carrying my camera around and taking photos of everything. Document. If it's yours, if it's not yours, it doesn't matter, and then don't keep it. Share it. And don't let anybody discourage you. Be like the hummingbird.
Thanks so much, Itay. I think he has really summed up what, as educators, we need to be looking at.